Don't. Don't open that box. What have you done? You shouldn't have opened it. You shouldn't have opened it. Opened it. Opened it.
Hello, listening people.
Hello.
You're listening to Spit and Polish presents The Mystery Box. I am one of your hosts, Ryan Slawinski.
And now you're listening to Bartek, the other host.
Hi, Bartek. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Ryan?
I'm good. I'm feeling really great. You know, we're doing our show, The Mystery Box, our monthly show in which we watch a movie or video project or thing that has been found in a box. And all of these movies and things have been found from secondhand, op shops, the gutter, all different sources.
And then they were put into the tomb from the opening of
exactly.
which you heard the long sequence of walking down the stairs and the chains. And,
Yeah.
And then we picked it out from there. So it's really like a third hand.
Exactly. Bartek, we're spitting Polish. Likingly, because we're always spitting and we both happen to be Polish.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing, though, Bartek. I need to really get this off my chest right now. I don't speak Polish, and in our other show, Unappreciated Masterpieces, you usually tell me the title of the movie in Polish. But for this show, we don't do that.
Yeah, thankfully your lack of Polish skills in this show is all
But
right.
I just need to get it off my chest now, guys.
Yep.
I don't speak the language, so if Bartek drops a random Polish phrase in there, and I don't verify that it actually is a phrase, then, well, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But Bartek, do we have a movie that we watched?
Tak, my mamy film.
I don't speak Polish.
Oh, I've already messed up. I meant to say it in English. Yes, we have a film.
What is it?
It'd be pretty awkward if we didn't.
Well, yeah. I mean, we've had ones that are video projects, so...
We could have one where I say no, we don't, and then we'll just cut in like, and we're back. Now we have one.
yeah.
In fact, if you want to edit the episode
No,
this
it's
way,
even better. It's even better. I uploaded in 2 parts, 6 months apart.
the first part's like, wow, this one's only a few minutes long. It's
Whoa, they must have
quick.
really covered it.
They didn't even introduce the guest.
But Bartek, what is the movie?
This month, November 2018's episode of The Mystery Box is, as you have probably read, on a film called Betaville.
Betaville?
Mm-hmm. Not Betaville, Betaville.
Betaville?
Betaville.
But do we have a beta of a guest joining us?
We have an alpha of a guest.
Oh, they're an alpha?
A sigma. An omega.
A smegma?
No smegma.
I don't know. They could have. They could be filled with smegmas.
No, I bathed. Our guest this month is Jules Gatto.
Hey guys!
Hi, smegma.
Please don't say that.
Okay, Epsilon.
Hi, Jules. How are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good.
You watched Betaville.
I did.
You loved it, right?
Sure.
She loved it. We all...
Did you love it?
Oh, I had some strong feelings. I had feelings.
Peace it was, but not as before. Ours was a tyranny of peace, an obsession.
A lot of things are coming off my chest this episode. Bartek and myself have already experienced Betaville. It's technically not that much of a mystery because in our previous episode, Stardust, we had trailers before that movie. And one of the trailers was Betaville, and we talked about it in that episode. This DVD that I found at an op shop I do believe I found this one when I also bought Finding Emo, which is one we've done on the show.
Mm-hmm.
This is a triple movie treat. It has 3 movies.
It literally says triple movie treat on the cover.
One of them is Stardust, our last episode, which you should definitely check out because not only the episode but the movie, it's fucking great.
Yeah. Technically, yeah, Ryan has a standalone copy of Stardust and it's also on this triple
Which
pack.
I did mention as well. So.
Yeah.
And then a movie called Bored Silly and Betaville. Both Bored Silly and Betaville, we saw the trailer, so Bartek and I had some basic idea of what we were going to get from Betaville, but it was not what we thought anyway.
Yeah, before we watched Stardust last month, we got the trailers, It was Betaville first, and then Bored Silly. So I think Bored Silly had the recency effect on me, and I remembered it a bit more. But I remembered little bits of Betaville, but not enough to say that, oh, I'm not walking in that blind. Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. With this show, Jules, when I have to find a DVD from an op shop or rejected items from society, the gutter, cash converters, one of the artful things I have to do is just to know what one to pick, and usually it's by looking at the cover.
Yep.
Right? I don't usually even read the back of them. I might read like the blurb on the front or something, and I just kind of go, you know what? Yeah, this. Now, when I got this this DVD, I saw Stardust on there, and that was one of the things where I went, ooh, I've already got Stardust. But will I ever find Bored, Silly, and Betaville by themselves? So I was motivated to get this DVD. But you know what's great about the DVD? Its cover, Jules. Do you mind kind of just running us down what this is? Because this is a comedy movie triple pack thing.
So the cover itself and not just Betaville?
Yeah, the cover itself, and then
Okay.
we could talk about the Betaville mini cover.
I'll describe the cover. So the cover has a red gradient background, kind of with I'd say like a Lego kind of pattern.
Yeah.
The dots kind of stick out. Starts with
Why
like,
is that, I wonder?
who knows?
Art.
Maybe
Because
it
each movie
links together.
fits perfectly with one another like Lego.
So, it starts off with the white and then gets down to that actual bright kind of Lego red colour. That's the back. Then it says Comedy Capers, triple movie treat. And then it has the 3 covers for each movie for Stardust, Bored Silly, and Betaville. And
Can you see each of those clearly, or are they...
I would say that Betaville is the clearest one.
Because you can
it's-
see all of
It's
it.
the closest layer to us, right?
Yeah, it's the first layer. Bored Silly is underneath that, and then underneath Bored Silly is Stardust.
Oh, so they're kind of stacked on top of each
Yeah,
other.
so
Oh, how
they're
easy to
kind
see.
of like fanned out
Yeah.
with Betaville being on top.
Thankfully, from this angle, I can see that on the back they're at least not covered up. Yeah.
That's positive.
Yep.
That's a positive. Tick.
So, from the front, Betaville is the clearest one. The cover of Betaville is pretty much Betaville written in the bottom, kind of in that PowerPoint fun text where you could curve the
Oh, the word
writing.
art.
The word art.
art.
Remember when you were a little kid and you just had Word and all you would do is play with the different fonts?
Yep. It looks like someone has done that with kind of, I'd say, like a browny red colour with the yellow behind it.
How terrible.
Then it has a group of kids together, six kids of, would say all different races, but really not that many.
Not that many. There's a little black kid, right?
There's a little black kid.
A biracial girl.
A biracial girl.
It's
and
Jules. She's on the cover. She's
Yeah.
just like, hey guys, it's
surprise. And then in the back is some kind of weird tower, like circular kind of tower with lightning striking out of it, and then there are two circles on either side of the tower, one in white and one in yellow, with people inside these circles.
me. Little did we know that would be important.
This film loves
Just
things inside circles.
please take note of that, because that is a very important point.
It is so important. Now, Jules, when you look at this cover of Betaville, now you've already seen the movie, but when you look at the cover in retrospect, does it reflect what we saw?
Hell no.
What I think before we started this, I looked at it and Jules looked at it. I said it looks like a haunted house movie. Like
Yeah.
it looks like the mansion is like Frankenstein's mansion where lightning's hitting the top of it, and
It
I'm just
looks-
like, this looks weird because they got all these big like hedges behind them, so it looks like a hedge maze. And I'm like, oh, okay, it could be like a haunted house
Yeah,
movie.
it looks like a group of like mischievous teens are going into this house to sort something out, like to go, oh hey, like there's this weird place in the woods, let's go check it out.
It's-
and then horror ensues, but no, it's
I
definitely
thought it was
not
gonna
like
be like
that.
looking at the cover, it looks like a haunted mansion movie, like that one with Eddie Murphy. I think was called Haunted
Yeah.
Mansion. But the big thing I love is inside these circles. One of the characters is actually in the movie that is inside the circle. This orange circle that has this weird-looking Doctor Who-looking villain. But then in the other one is the actor Judge Reinhold, who now in retrospect that's really weird because he never appears in these circles. But I guess I had to have him because he's the biggest named actor that they have in this movie other than John Aston, and we'll get into those.
Yeah, we'll get into everything.
But Betaville, and you didn't read the tagline, Kids of the World, Unite! And of course, Bartek's favourite part is the rating. This is a PG movie, and it has low-level violence. Now, in the past, we have focused on ratings so importantly because Bartek raised a point in one episode, and I can't remember which one it is now, but there's an episode that you raised that meant someone from the government had to have watched this movie and then given it an appropriate rating. And I think of that constantly when we watch movies like this.
I'm surprised I didn't think of it this time.
This poor government worker, I'm going to call her Susan. Susan comes into work today. They're like, Susan, we got these comedy capers triple movie treat. You've got to watch them. And in the order that they're in on the DVD, Betaville's first, Bored Silly, then Stardust. Since we know Stardust is fucking crazy, by the time they got to Stardust, they just said, P, just don't bother saying any more. I don't need to give any more context to that. But it's just like, Betaville, I just imagine them, that's their first, like, it's 9 o'clock in the morning, they're having a cup of coffee, and they're just like...
If they watch them in alphabetical order, it'll be the first one.
Alright, they're given this DVD pack, and they have to just watch them in order, and then this movie is insane.
Muriel be praised.
Muriel, our mother's son. But back to business.
Now, Bartek, this movie's so crazy and weird that before we started recording, we were trying to think to ourselves, how do we approach this? We've had to do that since last episode and the one before. It's like, these are 3 episodes in a row where we're like,
It's like, oh, documentary, oh, crazy film. Now there's this one, which is similar to last one, but
So, Bartek,
trickier.
I think we were saying the best way to do this is just kind of do a summary and then do some highlights.
Yes.
So how about you lead us into the journey that is Betaville?
Yeah, so listening people, I'm not going to go into a lot of super detail. This will just be me basically saying what happens in the base sense, and then for the rest of the episode, you know, we'll bring up things in the film and we'll relate it to this summary.
Yeah.
So basically, it's set at Betaville. This is a like camp that children of any age of world leaders go to.
Yeah.
At some point at this camp, there are invaders from a planet called Z, just the letter Z or
We
Z.
couldn't tell if that was what it was called for like
yeah.
a good majority of it.
Only when the characters in the White House scenes said it was it clear
You
enough.
mean the actors that have had like 30 years of acting experience or more and know how to enunciate words?
And seem to have good microphones, yes.
yeah.
Yep, so this film does have alien invasions in it, but not in the traditional sense. They stay on their planets, but they can travel between people's consciousnesses through these circles that we indicated on the front cover.
That are called dots.
They're called dots, yes. So, and these dots tether themselves to people, and for some of them it makes them go crazy, for some of them not,
Kinda?
it seems.
I don't even
Yeah.
know what ones went crazy, if I'm honest with you.
And,
Yeah.
And you have to be asleep if you want...
It's
for
like
it to
body
trans-
snatchers. You have to
yeah.
be they get you when you're asleep.
So, just to start over now that you have that information. Summer camp, there are a bunch of kids that are kids of world leaders.
The kids are the main characters.
They're the main characters. At some point, these dots invade and they possess, people that work at the camp, some of the kids, and it causes a bunch of riots. Eventually, at some point, we discover that these aliens were, I think, created by other aliens from a planet called Planet 38.
Who are their enemies as well.
Who are their enemies, yeah.
They're not necessarily created, but they're long-lost ancestors.
Yeah, they're some
Brothers.
somehow subordinate to these Planet 38 aliens. It seems to us that both of them are not necessarily good, but
They seem like straight-out evil.
yeah, but the Planet 38 people,
Are very evil.
yeah, they kind of neutralize the Z planet people by the end, and that sort of ends the conflict. And at the end of the conflict, one of the main characters is...
One of many.
Yeah, one of the many. We'll get into all that. Is banished to some sort of planet. They're the planet Z planet.
It's called the Phantom Zone in Superman. He gets banished to the Phantom Zone.
I thought it was by
Planet
the people
38.
of 38.
Yeah, by 38 he
As-
gets banished to the Phantom Zone, but at the end he's on Planet Z for some reason.
So basically, that vague outline: summer camp, alien invasion, other aliens are there.
Adults are helpless.
Adults
to help
are
the kids,
helpless to help the kids
except the president and his generals.
to a degree, and then by the end, one of the kids in quotes gets banished to Phantom Zone.
Now, Bartek, I've got two things that I think you needed to bring up in this.
Mm-hmm.
One, it's set in the future, and two, this is told in media res.
Yes.
Those are very important to this outline because it adds so much, because we know everything's going to turn out okay.
Yes. Well, this whole episode will us be basically adding to this outline so that you can get a better understanding, but we really had a hard time following this plot.
Oh boy.
So I think having this skeleton here is really going to help
So
us
yeah,
in
the
this
basic
episode.
skeleton is an alien invasion of some kind in some way, shape or form, and the kids must stop it from happening, but they do not do that, but they do. And then marriage happens, and then sadness, and then happiness, and credits, media res.
So what kind of trouble have you gotten us into now?
You have much to learn.
I have a lot to say.
Before we even dive into the plot elements further, because we've given a basic structure, I think we need to talk about the CGI elephants in the room, which is the CGI. Bartek and I remember it more, but Bartek and I saw the trailer for this, and the CGI in the trailer looked like A Robot's Christmas, a movie we previously covered on the show.
Yeah, my main memory of the trailer watching it, because I forgot to look at the cover before we started watching it today, as of this recording.
Yeah.
I remember it started off with this like CG city or realm of some sort, and that reminded us of Wobots. Then shortly after that, we saw, some of the younger kids in the film talking to some of the like teenage kids. And then after that shot, it seemed like every single shot featured an older teen or adult in it. So at least for me, I'm sure for you as well, Ryan.
Yeah.
We were wondering, this seems like it's meant to be for kids and about kids, but we're seeing a bunch of, as far as we can tell, adults.
And that you've struck the nail on the head there. This whole episode, I feel the core of what we're going to be asking, the central question I feel for myself was, who was this for?
Yes.
The big thing. But to go with the CGI, there was so much of it in this movie. Special effects. Terrible special effects. And I can only speak for myself, but viewing both Jules and Bartek watching this, I think the funniest elements from this movie were the special effects and how they were used.
To be fair, the thing that made me laugh the hardest was a zoom in, zoom out. But yes, I agree.
Which ones were those? The zoom in, zoom outs?
There was a part where it was, I think, when we saw the president of Planet Z.
Oh, right, yeah.
There was, in the background, there's this object that looks like a giant light blue light bulb.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And in the middle of his speech, the camera just suddenly zooms in on that.
And not the camera, them in post using
yeah.
the zoom effect.
Yeah, not a physical cameraman doing anything, because it was a still shot, I believe.
Yeah.
Just post-production, zoom in on it, zoom out. It has nothing to do with anything as far as we can tell.
No.
It had nothing to do with the conversation, and there wasn't even any cut going on.
It's one of these movies that it reminded me of the prequels, where they had people on green screens, in a green screen environment, walking around, but then every now and then they would mix in real world things, but those real world things, like the camp was real, but then they would just have a bunch of CGI nonsense there anyway when it's not needed. It's like the Phantom Menace, where they had real deserts sometimes, but then there's just a bunch of CGI nonsense, so it still feels fake anyway.
Yeah.
The CGI the special effects were incredibly bad.
It actually reminds me if the person from Spy Kids came over but was completely
Drunk
or high or both
Robert Rodriguez, yeah.
and went, "Hey guys, I'm your man."
I would love it.
There's a part in the film where a missile gets launched, and the way that we see that missile get launched is very obvious stock footage. And the stock footage, as grainy as it was, looked so nice compared to all the CGI. Did it not?
Every time they use stock footage, it looks so much better than the actual film we had got. There was a bit where Bartek, you're like, make this the thumbnail, where we see a bunch of the dots taking
dots
over
of the
military
circles,
figures,
Yeah.
and one of them was stock footage of like this guy in a military fighter that was clearly one from like the 70s.
Yeah.
And there's just like this pristine, clear CGI dot
With a
flying
fish in
around,
it.
with a fish.
I think it was a fish.
And he's just like flying around, and I just said, you were laughing at that, and you're like, make that thumbnail. But again, here's where my brain went. I just went, every time they use stock footage and they had CGI nonsense on the stock footage, I often thought to myself, like, I wonder what that pilot's doing now in real life. Is he still alive? Did he know that they used his image in this movie? I know it's stock footage,
Did that
but
missile live a happy life?
did we have a favorite moment of CGI, Bartek? So, like, you liked when they zoomed in on the background, but, like, any standout CGI special effects moments, Jules?
Oh, it was just some of the things that they chose to be in the dots.
Yeah, like the fish or
and
the
there was an umbrella,
A lunchbox.
and a little hummingbird.
Yes, an apple.
I think a light bulb was one of them at one point too.
As an example of something that wasn't in a dot, and I think you and I thought that,
All of us.
there was a part where there were a bunch of ships flying in the sky.
Yes.
Yep.
And they
And-
look like fish.
And from the angle, because they were like flying horizontally from the camera's point of view before turning, they look like fish. And we were like, did they forget to put a dot there? Are they meant to look like fish? But then when they turned to the camera, it looked a bit more like a...
Spaceships. I
Yeah.
guess Planet 38 had fish ships. My favorite CGI stuff was the dots as well, but I personally liked it when they had people inside of them. And here's the thing. Yes. You all know where I'm going to go.
Is the keyword up?
What I'm going to say is...
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know it's up, but what I'm going to say is in the dots, they have these dots, and they're like, and they're discs as well, so they are flat. They're not like spheres. They are flat. They have the shot of the head, like the headshot of the actor or actress in these spheres. So they're like floating, talking heads. But they do the bold choice of every time it turns around or flips around, it awkwardly, eventually, when it flips, does a jump cut to a shot from behind them. So when you see a dot from behind, it is the back of their head. When they turn, and it's that stuff made me laugh the most with the CGI, was every time they turned around, or even when they wanted the actor to flip their head and turn, they just did a quick mirror flip.
Yeah, it was very sudden.
That mixed with also the fact that all of this CGI, I think, special effects, I think you at home are gathering, of course it looks terrible. One of the reasons it looks terrible is it does not look integrated into the world. It looks like if you had the movie and you were just dragging a 2D image across the screen. It doesn't look like they're near anyone.
Yeah.
It just looks like you've put clip art on top of a thing and haven't done any shadowing or anything to make it look like they're there.
I guess the only thing is the size gives an illusion of distance.
No, because also when they move, it just looks... everything
flat.
looks wrong. Because when they move forward or backwards, it just looks like they're just shrinking it and expanding it, but it doesn't feel like movement's happening, no depth in the frame. So that stuff also added to the humor of the dots. The dots were the best. The dots, that stuff was the best.
Yeah, the thing that I was thinking of, there's a part where, like, the dot just suddenly flies up off frame, and that made us laugh.
Oh, yeah, that was good. Or when it came out of a fish. There was a scene where we heard that there was a scene where the two kids
The two youngest main
kids.
The two
kinda.
actual children.
The two actual children were hostages in this room, and they were on a bed each, and above them were those like mounted fish on the wall that have their mouths open.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like the talking bass.
Yeah, the talking
guys.
bass thing. And we could hear the Dot, who's a woman, speaking to them, but we were like, we can't see the Dot anyway. It must be behind
Yeah, we
the
were
camera.
all looking around the frame.
and
like,
then,
what
and
was
then
she?
it popped out of the fish's mouth. And,
Fish's big open mouth.
and we all went, of course! Of course it was there.
I'm sure that was fun to edit for the post-production at least.
I look silly.
No, you don't. It looks good on you.
There's enough space in there for me. That's all that matters.
Well, there's one other recurring thing that I think is worth mentioning because we'll just keep bringing it up.
Yeah.
This is actually something the first time you brought it up, it was sort of half joking and I rolled my eyes like, oh, here we go again. When we meet two of the two bigger kids, they're shirtless and you making like, oh, this is homoerotic jokes.
But yeah,
Like-
so was Jules. She was
Yeah,
totally
Jules too. And I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, they're shirtless, making homoerotic jokes, sexual tension. There's a lot of sexual tension in this.
That
like,
comes out of
PG film
nowhere.
all throughout this film.
It's very sexual towards both genders, together with the same gender and opposite genders, like girls and girls, boys and boys, boys and girls.
Aliens and aliens. Let's not
Aliens.
forget that.
Oh, there's a weird kind of sexy scene between two aliens. That's very weird.
What are you talking about? What about the one with the friggin' DDD?
The DDD. We'll get it up. Fuck yeah. So Bartek, yeah, I would have forgotten to bring that up before we get into the plot. There's so much strong sexual elements in this, and again, this goes into who is this for?
But just remember, it was never addressed either. It's just low level violence.
Yeah.
in
That's
the...
what I was going to say next. You
It
got it.
is
In the rating.
so weird because both Jules and I were laughing and saying how homoerotic it was that these two guys had their shirts off, but it was like they filmed it in a way
Yeah.
and framed it in this way where it was just, and it was lit in a way where it was kind of like, am I supposed to be feeling something for this? Like, I'm a guy, so no, but I'm like, maybe young girls are watching this and they're like, ooh, we don't get this too often.
Well,
in
specifically,
movies.
you're a straight guy. So,
Yeah, and these guys they were somewhat fit. They weren't like
Oh, I
ripped.
would
They
say
were like
they're,
ripped
like,
for teenagers.
mildly athletic.
One had a bit of a six pack going on, but not too much. Like they looked realistically fit for teens, right?
Yeah.
But then it just keeps going. For the first 20 minutes, it's nothing but there's no way to say this. The first 20 minutes is sex games between these teenagers. It's like
And
these
like,
two
and
sets...
the little kid has to tag along, kind of.
Yeah,
But they drag him into it.
they drag him into it.
Because he's been made one of their little brother.
And
in the
we
buddy
meet
system.
these two teen girls, one of which is the daughter of the United States, and the other is the daughter of somewhere. Who's our main female character as well, the biracial girl, whose name I'm forgetting. Ruby Rose. No, Ruby.
I wish it was Ruby Rose.
Oh boy,
I'm forgetting the
I think she would
president's
like the
daughter
girl
one.
a bit more than the boy. But Ruby, we meet these two girls on a boat.
A speedboat. You
A
can't
speedboat,
forget that.
so many speedboats, and they're having these weird lines of dialogue about wanting to fuck the boys, basically. But we can't hear one of them because the audio, which we should get into as well. The audio,
Yeah.
they have different mics for different actors. Like sometimes they're using the audio on set on the scene, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes it'll be like Ruby's having a conversation, and she'll be saying like, "Hi, how are you, Bethany?" And Bethany will be like, "Oh, I'm going pretty well, actually." And it's just like. And it's this whole conversation is like, wow, Bethany, that's pretty good. Yeah, it is pretty good. Yeah, it is. It's so much. But they're talking about wanting to fuck these two boys. And then the two boys come over, and as they're walking over, they're like, I'm going to fuck these two. They're like, I'm going to fuck these girls. And then they come over, and the girls are giving them the cold shoulder, because that's what girls do,
Yeah,
Jules. I mean, you know this.
just
It's all
before-
sex games.
Just before they got up to the boat, they basically said straight up, like, all right, let's act a little cold now.
And then they take our main actual kid, who we haven't even gotten into, but we will. This is all about the sexual politics of this movie, because the first 20 minutes is them in the woods trying to make out with each other. whilst also using the little kid as a tool in this game.
They actually discuss hooking him up with this little girl because she's roughly the same age.
Also, when they first meet, when the little black boy first meets the biracial girl, the two boys are trying to set him up with her too as a joke. Remember, I was like, well, they're going to get these two minorities together because I guess they're both dark-skinned. They belong together. They're different ages.
And you know...
One's like freaking 10 years old.
And what, like 10 and 17, you'd say? Maybe like 16?
But they're both dark-skinned, Jules. Lump them together. And that's how it felt.
And you know what the great part is about the fact that they've gone on this little trip where they're having a bunch of fun and, you know, there's all this sexual tension going on? The setup for the trip was... Hey, I found a treasure map. Let's go get the treasure.
And they were like, great idea. Then they don't want to join in because they want to fuck each other in the woods. And this continues on. Like, Ruby wants to get with the guy who we mentioned that gets trapped in the Phantom Zone, whose name was... Luther, obviously. And he's...
The other guy's Tony.
And she finds out that he's making out, and it kind of looked like he was fingering the girl from the Daughter of America, whose name I can't remember.
Holly?
Oh, thank you. I was just kidding.
And then for the rest of the movie...
You said Bethany before. I'm like, that doesn't sound right.
Luther and Holly are together, and they seem like in a perfectly healthy, fine relationship where they like each other, and we're like, oh, okay. And then Ruby is in a healthy, nice relationship with... What was his name? Tony, because she takes off her dress because it's heavy, even though it looked like the lightest dress ever.
Well, to reveal that she's wearing a fucking slip underneath.
I thought, oh, she's going to be wearing a bikini because we've already seen them go like swimming around this lake that they're at, and then she's like wearing a slip. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? And then she's trying to put it on a tree, and she trips over, and her boobs nearly fall out. And he catches her near her ass a little too much for my liking in a kid's movie. And then they just kiss. And there's just like this weird music playing there. It's not like, oh, how sweet. It's kind of like, yeah. And you're like, and this is throughout the whole movie. It's just these horny little teenagers, but also here's the thing, they also kind of don't play it too sexy. It's like
well, eventually when the plot kicks in,
there.
then there's just a bunch of like, oh no, but except for a bunch of hijinks happening.
But then they do those things, but like we're describing it, and I'm sure people at home are thinking of this in this sleazy way, but it's just kind of like there. It is not even that sleazy. It's not like a Friday the 13th thing where they got sexy, horny teens. It's just kind of like, yeah... This is how they talk.
It's just mild kissing, but it's mild kissing with no lead up. It's like, oh, these two people are here. Their faces are suddenly getting closer. We don't know why, but it's happening.
But Jules,
yeah, she tripped trying to put her dress on.
They do give a setup because Tony, was it?
Tony, yeah.
He said your favorite line of the movie, which
yes.
which was
I don't remember.
Come on, Jules.
Oh, sorry. All girls make me feel the same way.
That's what he says, and that's why he's motivated to kiss
and
Ruby,
at what
because
point,
all girls make him feel the same way.
And at what point in a conversation was that line said?
At the beginning, right?
I think it was just on its own.
No,
I don't think it was a conversation.
Weren't they lying on the picnic blanket?
Yeah, I don't think they were
just
talking,
drinking. God knows what they were drinking.
Yeah, they looked like they're drinking cocktails at the school camp.
It looked like white wine.
I don't think it was a school camp, but...
Sorry, this kid's camp.
Aren't you concerned about her feelings?
Ruby and I had a lot of fun. But I want a woman who can make each day of my life a new discovery.
Oh, go on.
And I won't stop until I find one who feels the same.
There's so much weird sexy stuff. It's so mind-boggling. Because again, who's this for? Because we all thought this is going to be a kids' movie.
Yes, and a reason for that, and this is a good segue, is at the beginning of the film, we are introduced to a character who is narrating this from the future.
Played by Lou Rawls in the future, who's of prominence.
Yeah, so we assume, oh, okay, this character's younger self that we are watching right now is probably the main character, a little black boy. He's the son of the Prime Minister of Canada named Kirby.
And it happens in 2028?
No.
Or
he says, I was born, it all started in the year that I was born, 2048. But then when we meet him, he's like 10 years old, so I guess it's 2058.
Yeah.
Guessing that is 10. So, yeah, Kirby, he goes to Betaville for the first ever time. He's the son of the Canadian Prime Minister.
Kirby Finkel.
Kirby Finkel?
Was that his last name?
He had some weird last name like Kirby Finkel or Funkle or some bullshit. And yeah, he meets... The first thing he does is he goes to the camp leader.
He gets off a helicopter and he's like being told like this is Betaville,
and then he goes to the camp leader, and the camp leader's like, "Here, have this watch so we can track you. Also, this watch never comes into play ever. I don't know why we're focusing on it, and it never factors in anywhere ever."
Like he does use technology in the film, but not that watch.
No, then they make a big deal about this watch. It's like, "Oh, we got this watch, so we can track you," and you're
especially
like,
because he's like, "Cool."
And also,
and it has a close up. It's like Spy Kids, like you said, like Spy Kids, where they had that technology, and you as a kid wanted it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that watch had the recurring computer voice of the film, right?
Yes.
Well,
that woman's voice that was like really...
Well, I don't know if it was a watch, because every time you heard the computer voice, they were standing on their speedboat that had a giant computer monitor that was talking to them, so no?
I could have sworn that like they were pressing some like buttons on the watch activating features and there was a voice like saying the features or something.
I will not deny you that. I did not notice it as easily. I noticed more when they were standing at giant computer screens and using their voices. But yeah, he eventually gets paired up with his bigger brother. Yeah. Like the big brother figure.
Mind you, should we say that he actually meets them while these two boys are digging holes with their shirts off?
Yeah.
Looking for treasure maps.
The aforementioned shirtless scene.
Because they're looking for treasure maps.
Yeah.
And Jules said, "What is this, holes?" Already referencing a better movie 2 minutes into the movie. Right, but yeah, it's like, and also it's lit weird. Do you remember how they were lighting the scene?
It was also more because, I understand that digging holes is a laborious task, but you don't have to make them glisten that way.
It looked like it was supposed to be sunset, but it was the middle of the day, so they had this like weird kind of golden orange moody
One of them
lighting.
did.
But then the little black boy had it too.
Yeah, but then I believe when they had like mid shots of all three of them, then the glow was gone.
So it was for close-up scenes of certain
there was
boys
there was a lot of
sexy.
There was quite a lot of inconsistent like production elements at work.
But we get told our characters' names in the scene. Luther, who's often called Lou, but he's never called that ever in the movie by anyone ever.
Always called Luther. Always.
Tony. And Kirby, but Kirby
has an opening line for them just to, set the record straight.
Don't call me uptight.
I won't.
That's what they called me at riding school, and I never liked it. I'm so
fine by me.
Which came out of nowhere because Kirby is telling us this story in media res, so we haven't heard him talk too much in the actual youth storyline. So we had this impression of, he's this kind of sweet boy,
Like, I think he's talked to some of the adults.
Wide-eyed, one or two lines, but nothing much. But by that impression we got, he's wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, sweet boy. But then he meets these teens, and he's immediately like, "At the previous camp, they called me uptight. Don't call me that!" And he's like screaming at them and pointing at them, and they're like
very stern.
They're very afraid of him already. These two teens, they're like, "Whoa, this guy's got a lot of baggage. This 10-year-old has a lot of baggage."
The way they were reacting to him, it was almost as if they were like thinking, "Okay, we've been paired up with a crazy kid, and like for the rest of the film, they were gonna like either like fuck with him or they're like not gonna get along."
I was actually waiting for one of them to go, "All right, uptight," and for him to just lose his shit.
I made a joke.
I love that joke. Yeah,
where they were digging for treasure, and he found the box, and Jules said, "I bet you find in the box there's a piece of paper that has a treasure map," and I said, "No, it's gonna be just a piece of paper that says uptight," and then he'll be like, "Oh," and they would laugh.
Yeah,
but honestly, they did. There was that thing where, I could see that where they thought this guy's like they were kind of like, haha, this kid's funny.
They had like that stunned, like slight smile.
But they also
signs.
reacted like genuinely worried by him, and I'm like, dude, are they afraid that, like, honestly, when you first meet Kirby, I know that this is going to be a giant statement, and it's obviously for some comedic effect, but honestly, if Kirby grabbed a gun and started killing everyone at this camp, it would not be out of character for Kirby to do this. He's insane. When we first meet Kirby, this is the impression you get. I want to mention this. There's a bit later where one of the schoolgirls has a laser gun and they just never explain it. It's like in the background, she just shoots and there's a laser, and we're like, when did they get guns? But Yes, Bartek, though.
Basically,
we go treasure hunting after that.
Yeah, it basically transitions from "don't call me uptight," them looking creeped and like, okay, hey Kirby, do you want to go on a boat ride with us with some girls? And that's basically the end of Kirby might be crazy.
Yes,
Like he's precocious throughout the film, but
he's a non-character.
Yeah.
He has no character. He's just guy.
He's like
who's there, who gets things.
It almost feels like, okay, they're not treating him as a main character. Perhaps he's the perspective character from which we see everything unfold. But there are many, many scenes that he is not in.
Yeah, but then he becomes really the main character because we've discussed this all in the woods things, and he finds a treasure map, and eventually him and this little redhead girl
who gets introduced in the middle of a montage but talked about a lot beforehand.
They mention her. Her name's Zora.
Yes.
Zora,
like the Zelda enemy.
Zora Flume. Remember, there's a bit where they say her last name. We're like, what country is she from? And I think you had a stab.
No, I didn't have a stab on the screen. It said Listonia or something.
Yeah. Okay, I couldn't see past the guy's head.
I couldn't see the end of the word. So
but
began with an L.
I will add this: they have a lot of people that are from certain countries. All of them are white kids except for 3 black kids. The main black kid who's from Canada, another black kid who is from the Middle East with his headscarf thing going on. So I went to Jules, you know, all those Middle Eastern black boys, like really dark-skinned black guy. Like, he should have been an African kid, if anything. And then there was the one with dreads wearing the military beret with the open shirt, and we never found out what country he was from.
Ultimately, their country of origins never factored into anything.
But they should have.
It was like just
they all had American accents.
But
yeah.
The only time it happened was when 2 girls were having a bitch fight and mentioning that their countries would slam each other.
And we didn't know which one, like, we know one country, was America, but we didn't know the other one.
We couldn't remember what country Ruby was from.
I don't think it was ever mentioned.
We
just got her flag in the background, and not even hers. That was Tony's. They get this treasure map. They dig for they go into a cave. It's not even under something. He has to run into a cave and he finds it. But
was it even a cave, or was it just like under a giant rock?
No, it was a cave because before that we have their digging sequence, and this was the best visual comedy in the movie. I was nearly on the ground laughing. Do you remember this? They have this shot where the girl is in the background of the shot and she's in focus. And we're like, okay, this is an interesting shot. I don't know why they've got it like this. And then coming from the bottom of the frame pops up right in front of the camera, the little black boy. And he just comes up, he's like, it's not here! And then he immediately goes back down again, and she waits for him to go back down to respond. And then he waits and pops back up, and it's just like, what is going on? And I was laughing.
It looks like we were about to play whack-a-mole on the screen.
Whack-a-mole with him, yeah. It was so funny. But yeah, they find this map. They get this treasure, and the treasure is just a scarf, a lacy scarf that we never see again, some bangles that we never see again, and
I forgot about those two things.
And a sword, which was actually a dagger.
Yeah.
He was like, look, it's a pirate sword. And we're like, that is clearly a knife or a dagger.
Yeah,
I don't know how he could think it's a sword.
It was sheathed, and we were like, that's really small. And I was saying, I think that's a dagger.
Like a gun
he
anything.
Unsheathed it, and yeah, it was a dagger.
Oh, wow! A pirate sword! Oh, it's beautiful!
At some point, we meet aliens. And I remembered that we were laughing so hard because it just kind of zooms through space through all these CGI planets. And when we get to planet Z, it looks exactly like Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Like, it really does.
It's these horrible CGI lilies, like this weird garden with these kind of egg orb lights.
Yeah.
And this weird kind of patio, like outdoor room.
And we meet the president guy who has the smallest glasses ever. And
just to be clear,
of the aliens.
Yeah. For future reference, there are 2 presidents in this film. United States and Planet Z.
And I guess someone from Planet 38 too.
But I don't think they ever address him as the president.
So,
President
we meet
Z.
our antagonist / mentor?
It was like the superior to, I get. Who do we consider the antagonist?
The woman.
Yeah, the woman.
The superior
whose name
to
is
the...
like 49.
I thought it was YB.
YB49.
Yeah, it was YB49, but they could just call it YB for short.
This is also a movie where I think it's in a parallel universe because they describe the events of World War II from multiple characters' perspectives. The fact that the last ever war that happened was World War II, so I think it's an alternative reality where there are no other wars that have happened.
To be fair, they described global scale wars.
No, they just said wars.
I believe they did describe them as
specified.
like world scale wars.
Okay, I'll allow it.
Because they said how naive that they started numbering their wars as they, ended.
Yeah, like wars like...
We're trying to make sense of this. Like, I love it.
That's the mystery box, yes.
No, I just love that this movie had someone who wrote it. And they thought, yeah, this is perfectly acceptable for children. But us 3 full-grown adults who have talked about films many times and had to watch many films cannot comprehend what this is. That's amazing. Like, it's so incompetent. But we have these aliens, and they want to take over Earth like how we described. And she's like, oh, let me do my method of pretending to be these kids' friends so that they can let me meet their parents and we can take over the world leaders because they can't do that themselves because, I don't know.
I think it was because the kids would be easier to tether to.
No, because they tether to every single military figure adult
Maybe it was
beforehand.
just a gateway.
It's just because the film's called Betaville and they need to have it.
Yeah.
So, Ryan, where does the president of Planet Z reside?
He resides on a porch.
This like porch gazebo thing in the middle of that weird.
It looks like
landscape.
it looks like he's like some Greek kind of.
Yeah,
Which
every time we see it, it's from a still
image
frame.
Yeah.
Aiming, towards, and you can see in the background the weird world. This is where the zoom in happens. You enter this thing by climbing upstairs.
Yeah. But we don't see the stairs. They come towards us.
Yeah, but you can see like whenever YB comes into the room, she walks up.
Yeah.
And does she do a lot of walking in these scenes?
No.
No?
She
gets around the office a lot.
She teleports constantly.
Don't forget the little glitter she leaves behind.
She leaves glitter behind.
And every time she teleports, disappears, it makes a noise, doesn't it?
Yes, and also you could tell that she originally did walk from point A to point B, but in post-production they were like, nah, let's just cut it. So you can see the other actor's body slightly change positions as well, because they clearly shot it with her walking from point A to point B, but they just thought teleport, we have effects.
Also, can I just address, why was she wearing something that resembled a horrible, shitty, like, Egyptian Halloween costume?
Because she had great eye makeup. Her eye makeup was killer. She had killer eye makeup. Come on, Jules. You do eye makeup. You gotta be jealous of that eye makeup.
I will agree it was good, but it just confused
dang
me.
Good. It was dang good. But she wants to do this plan where she's like, let's take over the kids. So she goes to her bubble, her little building. I don't know what the fuck it is.
Like headquarters.
Where she has her flunky who wants to fuck her. This again goes into the fucking element.
Yeah.
Who's dressed in pink polka dots.
He's wearing a silver like jumpsuit of some sort, and there are giant pink
polka
circles
dots
all over it. Yeah.
And he wants to fuck her, and she wants to fuck him too.
There's a lot of sexual tension.
And shall we not address the chair?
Oh, I was gonna get that.
On?
She sits on one of those chairs that you just kind of drape yourself over, and she's wearing like these interesting kind of stockings, these fishnet-esque stockings in her short outfit, and she's sitting on it sexily.
She's got she's kind of half lying with her legs crossed over,
with one leg up, so you can see her calf.
It's like a futuristic-y, postmodern-y version of like whenever you see depictions of like the Roman emperors, like sitting, laying down,
getting
eating grapes.
fed grapes.
Well, look, honestly, I would believe that guy has an alien porno mag, and the pullout,
the centerfold.
The centerfold is her on that chair, like that.
Yeah.
It's so weird. But yeah, she starts taking over kids who are asleep, but she wants to take
sequence when she
wants to take over the president's daughter, but she woke up and she's like, I can't wait for a few hours when she goes back to sleep. I've got to take over Kirby because he's asleep on a speedboat in the middle of the day.
She might stay awake for hours. What other suitable targets are on this island?
We have a strong signal from Kirby Freakos, the boy who sent the internet message.
Excellent. An impressionable subject. Let's go down.
Can we talk about the CGI Dream Sequence?
Jesus.
Jules, could you please try and fathom this?
so the only let me try and remember this. So he's lying down, and that's the kind of thing in the foreground, and then in the background you have this kind of space image where all of these little bubbles of her face come floating down into his mind, and then next thing you know the background kind of rips and it looks like the sun's coming out, and the same thing sort of happens again until, you know, he kind of wakes up and that image starts appearing, until next thing you know, does she come as an eye first? A floating eye?
Yeah.
Yeah. And next thing you know, he wakes up and Zora and this eye have been talking about him.
While looking at him. And he wakes up and he jumps in a fright going like, you know, what the fuck have I woken up to? And apparently Zora goes, oh, she wants to be our friend. Yeah, like they've had this conversation that we weren't privy to.
Yeah.
And then for the rest of the movie, honestly, I didn't know if she was actually the antagonist for a while. Then I was like, yeah, maybe she is, because the Planet 38 people, Earth people, and a few of the other Planet Z people talk about her like she's this rebellious renegade who's going against the grain of their world. But we know she isn't because she's talked to the president. But then at the same time, it's like maybe she's double backstabbing the president, because at the end of the movie, she lives and she's a good person. So I'm like, was she actually undermining the invasion the whole time? But then I thought as well, no, she's actually doing it because the movie's happening. She's actually being evil. I honestly don't know if she's the antagonist, but I have to call her that because she's the closest one we get. But I honestly don't know if she was supposed to be good or evil. I don't understand.
From a simple, look at how she behaves and looks and how the Planet 38 guy behaves and looks, the 38 guy looks a lot more like a stereotypical villain.
That's why I said he looks like a Doctor Who villain.
But for all we see of him, he kind of, it seems all he does is neutralize a problem.
Yeah, he's like, you guys are performing crimes, I'm gonna stop you. But he's so evil about it, very evil. But yeah, the antagonist, don't know if she's evil, but she wants to latch on to Kirby, and honestly, I don't know why she does, because she doesn't utilize him in any fashion other than hiding under a hat he owns.
I thought the whole point was that he would lead her to Holly.
But he doesn't.
I know.
Yeah,
I get that.
There's one. Now, listening people, we should mention that there was one problem when we were watching the film. Ryan's secondhand copy of this triple movie treat has some sort of problem where we were not able to watch
30 seconds.
About 30 or 40 seconds of the film. The point where the film froze and wouldn't play from showed the back of the Planet 38 man's head. At this point, we had never seen him before, and from what we could tell, we didn't know what that was.
I'm assuming that's the point where he comes down and tethers with Luther.
Yeah, because then when we did see it, Luther's pointing at the moon and he's fading into the moon, and we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you were confused because it was clearly daytime, but it's like, why is he pointing at the moon?
Yeah, but honestly, the fact that we could miss 30 seconds of this movie and feel like we've missed a whole act of the movie says a lot about it.
Yeah, because soon after that, next time we see, it's Luther and Holly are together, and he forcibly, well, not forcibly, but he takes her away from everyone else.
On a boat, on a speedboat. Well, how many speedboats are there in this movie, Bartek? Lots. Yeah, it's lots.
I feel like there were only 2, but they were used a lot.
Let's just go through some other things. So we have Luther and Holly are in this nice relationship, and they're very happy, and they're hiding out in this cabin in the woods that's described as a lake house, even though it's not near a lake, because John Aston, who's the president of the United States, who we should get into, declared a warning to the children and the people at Betaville about these floating eye things, because the eyes can only get you if you sleep. So the president is advised by Judge Reinhold and his sexy military assistant,
Dressed in white latex
with thigh-high boots. But it's okay, we don't know that until later, because her dress does go to her knees. Her her latex skirt. But later on, she takes off her thigh-high boots and orgasms. We'll get into that. But Judge Reinhold and her advised that the president should stay awake, because this is body snatchers rules. And John Aston is the best performance in the entire movie, and that's not saying much. I just say that because John Aston is my favorite member of the Addams family, because he was Gomez Addams.
He's pretty great.
And we shouldn't discount the fact that we could hear 90% of his lines.
No, I think we could hear 100% of his lines. He knows how to enunciate as well as a good microphone.
I think it was him that made us realize, it isn't Planet Zine, it's Z.
Yeah, because all the others like, Planet Zine, and like, I said, is it Planet Z? And Bartek's like, I thought I heard Zine, and I'm like, you know what, me too.
Yeah, you kind of stuck with that, and then at some point you were still calling it Z, and I'm like, oh, Ryan, I've kind of moved on from that.
What about the bit where there was a bad line delivery, where it's like everybody does, but we heard everybody dies.
Yeah.
When it was like jumping into the water, it's like, come on, everybody does. It's like, no, everybody dies. I'm like, don't jump in there. The President of the United States is superfluous in this movie. All he does is sit in the White House set. This is all shot in one day. And Judge Reinhold, who's a respected actor in his own right, who I've seen in many good things, is probably the worst performance in the movie. He's doing some crazy bullshit in this.
To be fair, it's also the characterization he was given.
I don't care.
Well, his character is... talks half English and half in sounds that only his partner understands what the actual meaning is.
It's like he's Michael Winslow from Police Academy, the guy who does all the noises.
But isn't really good at making noises.
So Judge Reinhold's a general whose specialty is computer codes?
Yes,
I guess military generals are really known for computers.
His codes were so advanced that only he could
figure them out. Which was also really great because Jules pointed out that means they could also be so shitty.
Yeah.
That only he would know.
Maybe they're so broken that only he knows.
And he's working on a device called the DDD, which is the dot...
Look,
they said it like a million times.
There was a lot of techno babble.
There was the EEE,
the
III.
There were a bunch of elements of this device called the DDD that were all triple letters, abbreviations.
The DDD was the name of the dot dissociating device or something.
Yeah, the DDD was the most important one that I should remember, but I have forgotten.
And all they do is sit around being goofy. This is their storyline. They've probably got 4 scenes in total.
Yeah.
And Judge Reinhold is wearing the white outfit, and he's just doing googly eyes and noises, and I've said this in a previous episode, but I got a bit of
No, I agree with you on this one.
I genuinely thought Judge Reinhold's character was retarded. I honestly thought, is this guy mentally handicapped? Like, they're just allowing him to be here.
Like, his partner mentions to the president that, he's awkward around people he first meets. So I was thinking, like, oh, okay, he's got, like, some sort of social disorder.
But then we see that's all he is like all the time.
But then he very quickly gets over his shyness around the president, and he's still really awkward, yeah.
I think he's mentally retarded, which is really weird because it's supposed to be for comedy, but it's not funny.
Like it doesn't pass.
When we first saw him and he was acting weird, and they mentioned he's a general,
which was the insanest
is a really
part.
high rank.
Yeah,
like, you're in charge of a lot of people.
Not only is a general a high rank, he must be so high ranked to be the first guy to go to in terms of an interplanetary defense. thing, right? That's got to be you've got to be really high ranked if you're that guy they get advice from.
But take it back to how he even enters the scene before he starts speaking.
Before he enters the room, I think.
Yeah.
Well, he pratfalls in, but before that, you see his head stick out of the doorway, and he's got scruffy hair, and he looks like he's just eaten too much cheese. And then he somersault falls into the room
and
like an idiot.
spills the president's jelly beans.
Which I did appreciate that reference, because that is a reference to Ronald Reagan, who had jelly beans on his desk as president. So that's a neat little reference. Like, this movie had one smart thing.
Along with the magic 8-ball on the
He had a magic 8-ball, which was a good gag.
The mise-en-scene of his office was pretty good.
Can we talk about his painting?
We can talk about everything, Ryan.
Dude, talk about his painting. You looked at it way more than I did, I felt. Like, I noticed it once or twice.
I actually only noticed it in like the last scene they had.
It was like he had all those paintings of the old presidents.
Yeah, but
the oil paintings.
But one of the paintings that was closest to his desk was this one of like it was a dog wearing a like military suit.
It was basically those old paintings, but the head of it was a dog.
Yeah.
But not like a dog's in profile, but a dog from front on. So it had like the weird elongated face. It looked weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were a bunch of random things in the office, like the magic 8-ball on his desk, and I think there was at one point in the room, I think it was like an old school TV that had some note on the top of it that said the Soviet Union. I kept trying to get
references from it, right?
Yeah,
you were like, what is this reference?
But we never got a clear shot of it, so the only thing I could ever read from this white note that was on top of the TV, I think it was a TV, was the Soviet Union. I'm like,
honestly,
this is a long time after the Soviet Union.
This is the worst White House, like, president's office set ever, the Oval Office set ever, because it really did look like a tennis court that was spray painted grey.
It was
and
spacious.
They just stuck walls around.
It was pretty spacious, yeah.
Like, it wasn't even round. The Oval Office was square.
It wasn't an oval.
So,
well, it's the future, right?
They serve no purpose other than at the end.
It's a post-Trump world.
Judge Reinhold invents the DDD, and it shoots atoms, and you find out it doesn't hurt humans. He does this by shooting them at his female...
No, he starts off with the fish.
He starts off with the fish. It hurts the fish, which is sad.
Yeah.
But then he's like... out of the way, President, and then he shoots the female secretary, and she goes, but then she's fine. Shoots her just quickly, and then I honestly think this was the most confusing part of the movie for me. This is saying a lot, because the other parts were so nonsensical confusing, but this, I'm like, there's some sense here that I'm not getting. The President grabs her by the shoulder, and he goes, I am so sorry that I made that happen to you, and you're like, what? You didn't shoot her? What? I don't understand. Like, that really is sticking in my brain as something that I'm like, there's an answer to this. The other ones, I accept there are no answers.
But wasn't that also followed up with, like, more shooting of her?
Yeah, and then the guy shoots her some more, to the point in which she is.
And we should mention that it's not just shot kind of like in your conventional, you shoot a gun and one bullet comes out. It's actually like a continuous
the semi-automatic.
stream.
Yeah.
But before he shoots her again, she's like getting ready to get shot again, so she's like hitching up her skirt, where we find out she has thigh-high white
latex boots.
She's unzipping them, and we're like, what the fuck is going on? She even undoes her hair and swishes it out, and then she gets shot continuously, and she...
Yeah, she's
orgasms.
She's not in pain, but
she's orgasming.
It's clearly giving her a stimulant of some sort, because... yeah, no pain, but she's clearly reacting to getting shot.
And we find out that humans can withstand this for 2 minutes until they climax.
So, I guess this demonstrates that a person wouldn't be hurt by accidental exposure.
Well, in practice, the way those dots jump around, it might take even more than that. In the lab, we've kept this up for hours.
Really? How long can this go on?
2 more minutes should do it for me.
I think we're on to something, Efren.
That's mainly it. Then that indicates that they can defeat the dots. But meanwhile,
they never actually use that. We should
we should mention that they never use this because the kids defeat the dots in the end by doing shit all. I don't know where you go with the kids. There's the camp takes kids hostages. Riots start happening. They get a tank.
Yeah, this is the part in the middle of this part that we're about to talk about now was the part where I'm like, guys, we need to pause. I need to we need to chat about this for a
Ruby
bit.
runs away to God knows where, magically ends up with these military people and
she has an outfit change as well, where
Yeah.
she wears this really sexy, skin-tight, like, got a boob window, 1970s looking, like, she looks like a Austin Powers
It
girl.
reminds me from the lady from Archer who wears the...
Yes.
Yeah.
The
But
skin
with
tight-
the
the backless thing, really, really seductively backless outfit. Like
Yeah.
I was getting Zoe Saldana flashbacks from Guess Who. I'm just like, oh, this girl's back's really sexy, but then I'm like, she's really young, Ryan. No, but the movie is saying to you, isn't she sexy in this little outfit?
Because this is apparently a kids' film, so kids
It's
find
a
this
black.
sexy.
It's a tight little black number with
a belt,
with a loopy kind of belt, a boob peak hole, and a backless top.
And she meets some people inside a hangar.
One of
doesn't
them's
she?
German.
Well,
The one who comes out of the tank is German.
There are 3 people in this hangar around a tank.
Who are adults.
They're adults.
But
They're-
don't have dots though.
Yeah, they don't have dots. They're employees of Betaville.
Yeah, of Betaville.
And they're having a conversation about this old event called World War II.
When it all started because the Chinese invaded Japan. No, it started because Germany invaded somewhere weird. It wasn't Poland.
France?
No, it wasn't even that. I think it's someone completely different. But then the German guy pops out. He's like, no, it all started way before that with the German Civil War. And you're like, okay.
It's basically 3 guys who are all like, no, you're wrong. This is what happened.
Oh,
They're
no.
all wrong.
It was when Germany bombed Pearl Harbor. That's it. You're like, okay,
Pearl or coughs.
He was like half right. It wasn't Germany though. Yeah.
But in their universe, I think it is right because it's all insane. That's insane. But yeah, she comes in and she's just like, hey, I'm a girl.
I'm good with engines.
I know how to do engines. And like, one guy's like, you're not allowed here. This is a restricted area. And then she's like, excuse me. The president of the United States, might I add, not of the world.
Oh, we should talk about his speech before we mention this part, right?
John Aston, in his dumbass speech to the children, is basically like, to the children and adults of Betaville, children are in charge now. Don't trust adults and get lost.
Yeah. His whole speech was centered around the idea of, people tend to tell each other to get lost. Well, wasn't America founded when a bunch of people like Christopher Columbus got lost? So I say that great things come from getting lost. So I'm gonna get lost so that we can make great things, and I want you to all to get lost.
And he's
do
standing
great
wearing
things.
a fishing outfit.
Yeah, and if you're ever confused about what to do, my advice to you is listen to what the kids have to say.
They're in charge now.
Yeah.
So she uses that knowledge and says, well, I'm in charge because I'm a kid. And then they all just go, all right, and let's leave. And she rides around in a tank for what feels like ages.
Yeah, there's a whole plot about
one of the kids
Zora.
is kidnapped by the camp, which...
It's like a very confusing kind of kidnapping because they're very civil about it.
Well, here's what's happened, though. These adults don't have dots.
Yeah.
Right? These ones at the camp don't have dots. And here's what my understanding of it was. And this is still me... There's a little asterisk next to this by me saying... The asterisk is, I don't know.
Oh, this is the biggest part for me where I don't know.
I think the adults were very aware that the dots were bad.
Yes, they were aware of the dots at the very least. Yeah.
They were aware of the dots being bad, and they wanted to capture the kids who had dots to stop them from influencing the other kids and getting to their parents, so that because they knew that they could get the dots.
Yeah.
But then eventually, throughout all of this confrontation and conflicts, they are eventually convinced that the dots are okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of where they're at. That's kind of what I got.
Kind of.
But then we get distracted because the black kid gets a hat.
Well, doesn't Ruby get back to the camp to find that all the kids are revolting against the adults?
Because they're kidnapped kids.
Yeah, because they're kidnapped.
But they're kidnapping ones with dots. But then the kids are also like, the dots are evil! And they're yelling at the campmasters going, show us your dots! And they're like, we don't have any. It's like, yeah, that's something that a guy with a dot would say, but they don't have dots?
Yeah, the old campmaster who was kind of like the head talking figure of them had his daughter with him, and he was like, "Oh, we want the dot to go into her because I guess
because then I'm not kidnapping.
Yeah,
I don't want to piss off the kids either." And it gets to the point where they rock up with a tank and they shoot the tower that's on the cover that really doesn't play into anything ever. And then he's like, "Okay, have them back."
And then for like 10 to 15 minutes, there's just a bunch of like no plot developments, but kids playing with the tank. They're just like riding around, shooting.
Wait, this is where the girl has the laser gun as well.
Yeah. The girl has a laser gun out of nowhere. But Bartek, I said to you, I find it really impressive that they got a tank. And you're like, is it really a tank? And I'm like, well, at least it's not CG. They got something that actually looks like a tank. But then, as soon as we said that, it enters into the 10 minutes of watching them have a tank. And it really fed into the fact that I was right. They got a tank, and they were like, we are going to show it! Because this goes into a lot. Whoever this director was, Tom Small, I think his name was?
Yeah.
There's two things that I can really stamp down in this. One, he must have a daughter who's a singer, because at least 2 to 3 times in the movie will stop dead in its tracks so we could hear a full song from this one female singer. And then in the credits, it said those songs were written by him and sung by a girl. I don't think they had the same last name.
It
but
sounds like a Kiss Me, like Sixpence None the Richer ripoff.
Yeah, and then the other is he got a tank. And he really needed to use that tank. Like he's like, guys, I got it for one day. We gotta show it off in the movie. Show where the money went.
Forget the plot. Let's just
forget the plot from my daughter's soundtrack and the tank that I got.
And it's not like there's a lot of variety. It's just they're driving the tank around. There are some conversations happening while the tank's driving in the background.
Honestly, the tank
there are
is
shots of
tank's
the
a
inside.
character.
Yeah, there's shots of the inside of the tank, which is like this hollow white room.
Yeah, with
like
the
a few
Jamaican
levers.
kid and another kid.
Yeah, a girl.
girl.
That was... The tank has an arc, a tragic arc, because this movie's low-level violence, and honestly, it gets violent, because there's a bit where the Jamaican kid, we will call him, the one with the dreads and the beret, and a girl come up with the notion of putting 2 shells in at the same time.
Just to see what happens.
And it explodes the tank with them inside. And I jokingly said before that, they're going to kill themselves. And then it explodes, and I was like, my mouth agape. I'm like, they killed themselves. But then the
Everyone
head of
was
the
like
camp...
running out of the building to look.
They weren't running. They were just casual about it. So then I was like, oh, okay. The
like
2 kids are going
cartoony.
to come out, and they're going to be covered in ash. But no, they're dead. Like, they actually treat it like they died, and we should accept that. Because the 2 main kids are real mournful, but it seems like she was mournful for the tank. Didn't it?
Oh no, not
We
our
couldn't
tank!
film more scenes, so let's just make it go out with a bang.
Shall we not forget when Kirby stands up at the tank, whips out his quote-unquote
That's what we're getting up
sword?
to, my dear friend Jules.
Jules. Meanwhile, the aliens have had more plans, and they're like, fuck it, we'll just kill the kids, for some reason.
With
a missile.
umbrellas and circles.
But then the evil woman decides, no, we won't, and she makes it so that the missile blows up, but it makes it look like the little Kirby guy. He decides, out of nowhere, with no prompting, that he'll stand on the flaming tank, grab out his little pirate sword, point it at the missile, and say,
at this point,
no!
And at this point, he has a pirate coat, too.
Oh, yeah, and a hat. A big cowboy hat. A big cowboy hat that he uses so that he could hide a dot inside of.
Like, it was giving us the impression that, like, throughout the film, he's gonna, like, constantly have a costume upgrade thing, adding on more pirate stuff.
And then when we see him as an adult, he has the full outfit, like the legendary outfit of Kirby, the savior of Betaville.
So basically, what Kirby does is he stands and looks up at the missile as it's coming down. He lifts his sword / actually a dagger and just like aims it at the missile. Ryan was joking about like, oh, is he actually gonna like chop it in half or something?
Yeah.
And then just like you wait a bit, some light stuff happens, and the missile blows up.
That's it.
Yeah.
What a fucking roller coaster that was for the 2 seconds that they tried to set it up as tension. where do we...
Look,
my brain is starting to hurt from trying to even
let's
do the highlights.
Let's do a fun thing. Let's go to when we cut to the cabin, the building where Luther and Holly are. You guys like that part?
Oh,
yeah, because just to highlight, Luther is from some kind of Asian background because of his clothes, not so much his ethnic looks.
His white skin.
I would hint more towards like India kind of as well, just to...
like a North India Himalayan.
Yeah, he's got something going. Let's say Tibet. So he's from Tibet.
We'll settle.
Unlike China and Tibet.
Nigeria.
He's the actual African guy. He and Holly are just having this argument like a married couple about how he needs to move in with her. And he's like, in my culture, we don't do that. And she's like, fuck your culture. I want you to be here. Because I'm scared of aliens.
And we're going to tell my parents.
About the facts of life. Because we are old enough. And I'm just like, what?
And he's real hellbent on, no, like, I can just live in the granny flat. Like, it's fine. I'll still be close, but I don't have to be right
Respect
here.
my cultural understandings.
Yeah.
And she's like, fuck you, I'm America. And it was so funny to watch this domestic debacle happen when all we had before was that they kissed and fingered earlier, and now they've moved up to like they're about to get fucking married.
It gets real confusing because then she goes, have you ever felt like you're being followed? So it's like, what is it? Do you want him to be close or do you want him to be far away?
But then he says in a real stern tone, yes, I do. And I was expecting legit. We've seen a lot of these movies. I was legit expecting it to kick in with this sad music, and he talks about in a monologue about what it's like to be a world leader's son and how you're constantly never alone. I was expecting that, but then it's like, no, that doesn't happen. Fuck you, no emotional depth. We're plowing forward to the cat fight.
Yeah.
Holly is really patriotic when she's in this lakeside cabin that's not near a lake.
So, let's talk about the cat fight.
Oh, yes.
Eventually, Ruby finds out where they are. She drives in the Jag.
There's a Jag, by the way.
There's a Jag in
Which
this.
they assume is the Secret Service.
Yeah, they do. They do assume that. No, he does. And then she says, they don't drive cars like that. I'm like, thank God Holly gets it. I actually liked Holly. Like, before the cat fight as well. Like, I thought she was alright. I thought, look, she likes this guy and he likes her. I actually thought their romance was kind of sweet, even though it became really adult very quickly. But then he sees Ruby outside, and then he's like, Ruby, I've always loved you.
They profess their love for each other.
But then he goes, oh my God, no, and runs away, and she's like, what's wrong? He goes, I can't explain. And I'm like, is it because the writer/director doesn't want us to know as the audience? Because I don't know. Apparently he has all these answers that we're not allowed to have.
Which I'm guessing we missed in the whole 30 seconds that we missed.
And he runs back in, he starts getting changed, and then Holly's like, what's going on? What's going on? Who's out there? And he goes, you don't have to be afraid of what's out there, but what's in here? And I'm like, what? Because we find out in that scene that he has a dot that only he can see at certain times, is constantly watching him.
Yeah, it's the Planet 38 guy.
But we didn't know that for a while.
Yeah, we didn't. We hadn't even heard of Planet 38.
No, we had.
Had we?
Yeah. The president
We had heard of Planet 38.
It was introduced in the monologue at the beginning.
Yeah, and the president's tactic of the evil alien society was to get Planet 38 and Earth to fight each other, and then they take it over after the ruining.
Well, you guys are cheating listening to the film.
How dare I watch it? But yeah, Ruby smashes her way through the door, and Holly instantly is like, what are you doing? I thought we were friends. This is what you do to friends? And we're like, what? If anything, Ruby should be saying that to you, because she, for us, the audience, was in love or has an affection for Luther, but then she saw that they were making out. But it's like the other way around, where Holly's all indignant for no apparent reason. And my God, they just start fighting each other. At first, it's like pushing and like really like lame, and we're like, yeah, this is kind of girly stuff.
You thought that they were gonna just like roll around,
but
or
then
something.
she slapped her, like Ruby slapped Holly in the face, And we're like, okay, this is getting a bit more serious.
It was a decent one where you heard the like...
And it also looked like she actually slapped her in the face.
Yeah.
So we're like, oh, okay, this is getting real. But then it really got real, didn't it, Jules?
Yeah,
when...
So, it...
Step back, obsessed.
I don't know if it got real when Ruby pushed Holly into a glass lamp where it shattered all over her.
And Holly said, my hands!
Or if it really went down when Ruby decided to fucking elbow Holly in the face.
And not like a casual elbow, but like where she crouched down and sprung up like a wrestler elbow.
And actually knocked her into a wall to the point where Luther had to come up and break them apart.
Was it Luther or Tony?
No, it's Luther.
It's Luther.
Because Tony's not aware. But no, the best part is she knocks her and they stop fighting for a bit and she goes,
Ruby
oh my
realizes.
God. I'm going to have to get you a wet rag for that elbow to the face injury.
And then she, like, proceeds to leave, like, walking towards the camera, and then...
And then Holly jumps her. And then Luther has to come in, and my favourite bit of this.
This is great.
We pissed herself when Luther's holding her back. She goes, stop it!
You're
Stop
hurting
it, Luther!
me!
And then he lets her go, and then she immediately...
There's like a moment of calm, then she gets right back in.
Fucking crash tackles Ruby. But here's the thing. All of this is happening. It's extreme violence. This is really extreme. Really
low level
real.
violence,
Low level violence.
But here's the thing too. To go back to the sexual thing again. I said this when we were watching it. There's this inherent thing within this. Whether it's intentional or not, but it's there. Holly's wearing this kind of these cutesy pajamas,
Satin
pajamas, and I already pointed out that her shorts had got tucked up her ass real good, so you got a good outline of this teenage girl's buttocks in these short satin shorts and the top, and the other one's wearing that sexy Austin Powers outfit. So there's this inherent sexual nature to this fight scene, as well as you're watching these two teenage girls sexily but also violently fight each other,
like have a
in
huge
these
smackdown
in their little sexy outfits. Then you add the mix that Luther's coming in, and he's in nothing but his underwear, and he's trying to put a shirt on, and he's fairly fit. So it just adds to this weird sexual thing even more, where it's like, this is really uncomfortable as well as fucking funny.
Not to mention the way that Luther's grabbing friggin' Holly.
Oh yeah, he's like got his arms like well under her tits, kind of like pushing them up.
From
and
behind.
From behind. Like, admittedly, I don't think that's the actor or them trying to do anything. I think that was just the nature of the beast of that moment. But it's just like, it doesn't help when you add all those other things in there. They have that sexy fight, and it just ends with like her... Ruby grabbing Holly by the hair and like smacking her head against the couch, and then cut to them tying her up to a rocking chair with bandages and bits of sheets that they've cut up. And they're like, we're leaving you here, Holly. You're too wild, and I'm in love with Ruby. Like, he rubs his salt in even more. What? That's the thing we need to talk about too, especially Jules and I notice. Men are absolute cunts in this movie.
Oh, jeez.
Tony, Kirby, and Luther are all assholes to their respective women that they're paired up with. Like Kirby, which we barely talked about because he's barely a character, even though he's the main one.
Yeah.
Treats a little red-haired girl like a piece of shit through the movie. Admittedly, she treats him like a piece of shit too, so it's equality. But Tony and Luther treat their respective ones that they're paired up with as pieces of shit because they're at the end supposed to be with the opposite girls that they are paired up with in the movie.
Yeah,
but it's
earlier on in the film when they dove into the water, the two of the guys were just looking down there, and they had this like blunt conversation where they're like, "Man, if I had my pick, I'd go with her or something."
And
they're choosing their picks, and then
their meats.
And then they go, "Well, there's no harm in looking."
But then it cuts to the girls in the water, and this is what maybe the girls' dialogues that they jumped in, and when they're in the water, we couldn't hear it, and it was just a lot of. That's all it sounded like. Remember when they're in the water, and they're like. Sexily splashing each other and giggling and dunking each other in the water while they're in there, and all you can hear is them going all these weird noises while they're talking about how they want to pork them.
But the funniest part about that is they're not even in revealing bathing suits. They're in pretty much like
Her slip was more revealing.
Full-on clothes to go into the
One
water.
of them was wearing shoes.
Did I ever tell you? If I could have my pick of any of them, it would be Holly.
But we have this sexy cat fight. She's tied up to this rocket chair, but then she immediately kicks him because she's let her foot's not tied up, and then her other foot's not tied up, and then they just leave her there. And I said, well, now her feet are free. She can immediately just walk, find something to free her hands, and then she's good. But she immediately does that. But then she walks, I counted it, 5 steps. Turns, looks up, looks down, gives up, sits in the rocking chair, it falls backwards, and she's stuck on her back like a turtle, and she just gives up.
Yeah, until a later scene where Tony comes in.
Tony and Kirby come and find her, because they're together for a majority of the movie for some reason. We have to talk about the aliens, LB and
YB.
YB, sorry. YB and her sidekick have a sex scene, because
Sex in quotes.
Alien sex.
Yeah.
Because he's really turned on by her, and she's really turned on by him. Like, I actually thought that was an interesting thing, because usually in a movie like that, she would usually, with this superiority thing, she would see him as like a flunky, but no, she's up for it, and how they have sex is by sticking their finger in the other person's ear, and they are going at it. We were like gobsmacked. We're like, what? I think this is one of the moments where Bartek, when you did this like 3 or 4 times, Bartek, this is good, when he sees something really crazy in a movie, like the bit where it's zoomed in, Bartek's voice goes real funny, and he just goes, what was that? And that's what was going on in that scene too. It's like, what? Because I also asked, who's this for, while that was happening, and you're like, what? Because they're sticking each other's finger in their ear, and they're orgasming, and it reminded me of this movie called Coneheads, where they have sex scenes in that too, where it's like alien sex is really weird. All they have to do is touch each other's hands, and they just go, oh, but in this,
by the time this episode comes out, we've already released our episode on that.
in their ear, and they're like, oh, and they're like, and then they have to stop doing it because the kids are calling them on the thing, which is really fucking weird. Honestly, after the tank explosion, after the missile explosion, after the cat fight, it's just basically them running around from point A to point B in a speedboat until the Planet 38 guy shows up
with the worst microphone in that one shot.
In one shot, he has a really bad microphone. Where the other shots, he has a really great microphone. Where he's just like, "Hello, I am from Planet 38, and you people from Planet Z are actually long lost ancestors from us. You got lost traveling." And then the woman's like, "That's not true. It couldn't be." And he's just like, "It is." It's just so.
It's like
spore.
It almost felt like he didn't have a microphone, but he clearly did because his dialogue was being picked up. But it was the quietest example of intentional dialogue.
It really was that bad. But you find out the Planet Z people are actually long lost ancestors of Planet 38. But that doesn't matter because Planet 38 has made a full scale invasion of their planet in the meantime and has killed the president of Planet Z violently. Might I add, very, very violently. Yeah. They shoot him. There's a hole in his body. It's just a piece of CGI bullshit clip art, but it looks like, when you think of it in the real thing, you're like, oh, that's pretty violent for a little kids movie like this. And the people from Planet 38 are bad, but they're good. Like, they basically stop the Earth invasion from happening. They don't have any intentions of invading it, but
it feels like in the future they could very well do that.
But they don't. It seems like they're more like, we don't like what these Planet Z people are up to. They don't respect our values. But then they are evil because Luther, who was given the dot guy, he apparently disobeyed them by not doing anything. He disobeyed them by doing nothing. Like, he didn't disobey them. I didn't understand. They're like, you disobeyed us. You are punished. And there's this tractor beam, and it sucks him in, and he gets put in a dot. And he's screaming forever, and he spins out, and it's like the Phantom Zone in Superman 2.
Oh, and let's not forget that Ruby's banging on the beam, going, please, take me with you.
Giving the ugliest cry ever in a movie ever, according to Jaws. Her face was like that throughout the movie, though. Luther's sucked into the Phantom Zone, Ruby's crying, everything's miserable, but then they just go, we'll cut to the future, where it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, cut to the present, in fact, Ryan.
Yeah,
No,
the wedding's first.
The wedding's first. They cut further in time where
I thought we cut to the present, then we cut back to the wedding.
Luther, his bubble it flickers away into what fades into a neon sign saying dance club. And then it zooms out and it's all the characters we know at this dance club watching the TV as the president announces that we defeated them by using the DDD. And the daughter of the president goes, "Hello, everyone. The president of the United States is talking. We better listen." I'm like, "That's your dad. Just say it's my dad." It's so weird. And then they all go, "Ah, yes, how beautiful this all is." And then it cuts to the little black boy holding a ring. And I just was like, what? What? No. And it's Holly and Tony, who apparently love each other, getting married.
He rescued her from the rocking chair.
They're getting married, and the best ADR ever happened where the priest says you now could put the ring on and kiss your bride, but we see him and his lips aren't moving at all.
I'd call it the second best. The people in that one room that were having a conversation with lips not moving at all was my favorite ADR.
Yeah, they get married, everyone's happy except for Ruby. She's all sad because Luther's gone, and Luther asked her, demanded that she live a happy life. And then we cut to the present, and we find out that Kirby is now an old man. I mean, we've seen him throughout the movie as an old man writing in calligraphy for some reason.
But here he actually leaves the room he's in, and we discover that he's now the camp master of Betaville.
Which is actually quite neat. I thought that was like an actual good reveal, because I didn't think about where he was. I went, I thought it was quite a neat little...
Yeah, for all we knew, like, it could have just been like, oh, his deathbed, or he's retired, or like...
Or like his cabin in the woods, or something, right? Or like, I actually thought he was now the Prime Minister of Canada, and that's his office. It actually cuts, and then there's Ruby in the future, who's now played by a pure white woman.
Yep.
And Jules and I had a good little laugh over that, because I was just like... As we mentioned earlier, Jules, you're biracial on some level, and I just went, when you get older,
on
some level, because I say this because
on other levels,
because you have more of an Asian look about you, but when you get old, you're gonna be white. That's the whole
I'm not
logic.
even going to revert to the other.
Half
when you were I am.
When you were a baby, you were full Asian, but now where you are, you're got a good evenness of it, and then when you're an old woman, your Italian's gonna come out more, and you're gonna be like that old Italian puppet lady on those pasta jars.
You're gonna be Bobo's mum from Fat Pizza.
You're gonna be Bobo's mum from Fat Pizza.
Idiot!
That's Jules is here. She's like, "Hey guys, it's me." But in like 50 years' time, she's like, "It's me, you're Jules. I'm now a white lady. I get the privilege." And we were laughing so hard about the fact that they just got a white actress because they couldn't get a biracial older actress.
I thought, for some reason, you were laughing hard at Luther's memorial.
No, because they eventually go to Luther's memorial, and it's just, what is it, a plinth that looks like a soccer ball covered in paper mache.
Yeah. It's just like...
Why is it a ball?
I don't know. It reminded me of when
it's a representation
YB was the
of
eye, but...
The disc, but they were flat.
Yeah, I don't know.
The dots, I don't know.
No, when she was the eye, was that flat?
No,
it was a hologram.
Yeah, but...
I don't know.
It was still sphere.
But, she's basically there with future Kirby, and he's just like, he's gone. But then we cut to Planet Z, which looks fine now.
Well, we first saw what was written on the memorial, and it revealed that, he wasn't dead, which was what I was thinking, but you kept saying he was dead. It was like, we hope for your return someday.
And while this scene's playing out, it's also intercutting with when they put the memorial there when they were kids, place some flowers down to... Which actually was done quite nicely. Like, the editing actually worked in that scene, unlike other scenes.
Yeah, I agree.
But then she starts crying again, and then Luther is in no longer the Phantom Zone, because some reason he's on Planet Z with the evil woman who's now good, but maybe she was good all along. Like I said, we'll never know. He's still young, because they don't age there. And he's just like, my God, I want to talk to her. And he floats down in his Phantom Zone bubble, and he's like, come with me, you can be young forever. And she's like, yes, I would love that. But you know what I love? Do you remember how she knew she could do that? Do you remember what happened? She looked at Kirby, and he just gave a nod, like, you should do it. Like, she had to get his approval.
You are free to do what you want.
You're free to go to the Planet Z and be young forever.
I used to be...
I'm weirded out that Luther's not offering me that option, considering I'm his younger brother. But whatever.
Well, younger brother for like a day.
Yeah, I know, not a morning.
Oh, sorry, no, it was a few days, wasn't it?
I felt like this all took place in one day.
Well, there was a night scene when they got to the camp and there was riots. Remember?
Yeah, but we also started the movie in the morning, and it ends in the morning.
But I have to say, if the president was that tired in one day, then he's real fucked
Well, he's
up.
the president. It's a tiring job.
His jelly beans were spilled. He couldn't eat them.
He's John Aston. His moustache
blood sugars were
his,
just real
his
low.
magic 8-ball said no.
I do love the fact that John Aston's moustache still looks as perfect as it did in the 1960s when he was in the Addams Family. Like, it still looked fantastic, his mustache. I want a mustache like John Aston's. Now, that's a mustache. It's, you either go John Aston or Tom Selleck. Those are the only mustaches that I will accept.
But anyhow, Ruby wakes up in the same place that Luther and the two...
Oh, in the sexy chair.
In the sexy chair,
Wearing a sexy outfit.
And she's young again, of
A
course.
disco outfit. It looked like a disco outfit.
Again, the Austin Powers babe aspect.
Would have been kind of funny if she woke up as, her modern self.
It would have been. It would have been even funny if she woke up as Heather Graham from Austin Powers too.
It wouldn't be funnier, but you'd like that.
I would have given this movie a 10 if it did.
You want to see Heather Graham in that chair?
Oh, yep, I do.
Yeah,
you got me there, Bartek.
I know, it's very easy. You
She
brought
wakes
her
up
so
there,
of course-
and Luther just looks at her. And then she gets up. She's like, "Oh, you're here," and then they kind of just go, "Oh, we're here together now."
Forever.
And they walk off. End movie.
I think so.
That's the
yeah,
end of the
yeah.
movie. They just walk off, and a bunch of CGI nonsense flies at us. End movie. Credits roll, music plays, more soundtrack from the daughter. It doesn't even tell us what year it is at the end of the credits, which movies are supposed to do. Even Stardust did that. It's insane. It's nuts.
Yeah.
I need you guys to tell me what year you thought this film came out. Was there any kind of numbers flying at you when watching it, or afterwards, or even now as we discuss it?
My bias towards the fact that it's in the same pack as Stardust leads me to think that it is also around the turn of the century.
Okay.
I was thinking maybe I'll pick the same year as Stardust, which we ended up thinking was 98, 99, but I'm gonna up it a little bit to 2000.
Okay, what about you, Jules?
I'd agree with that.
2000?
Yep.
Me,
What were you thinking?
I was looking, I did this with Stardust too. There's certain actors that I know. I saw Judge Reinhold and I saw John Aston, and I was trying to determine their ages and how they look from what I know them to be now and what I know them to be in their younger years. And it is in that in-between of like the 90s and 2000s. And I guessed like 2000, I wanted to guess like 2002, 2003. So 2002. But I was wrong. You guys were wrong. It was 2001.
Ah, the middle.
9/11 happened.
Right.
And they thought, release this. This will please them. Yes, 2001 was when this amazing product came out.
wow.
And since I'm saying it is amazing, I have to also ask, would we recommend this?
Man, this is a... I think I'm leaning no for this one.
Oh, okay. Why? I'm very curious.
Well, with Stardust, I feel like it just made a lot lot sense.
But
with
are you
Stardust.
measuring this on the Stardust pedestal? Which is,
Not
I
the
think,
Star-
probably one
not
of our
the-
top
no.
movies.
I'm not measuring it on the Stardust pedestal, but I'm just saying that unlike my thought process in that episode, this one made a lot less sense in terms of its main plot. With Stardust, as nonsensical as it was, I at least understood what everyone's motivations were.
Okay, yeah.
And what they were going for. Whereas in this one, I was lost for a large part of it. I wasn't sure if I'd missed something. I mean, we literally did miss like 30 seconds, but even ignoring that, it definitely had moments in it, and I guess I'm saying a similar thing that I said in Meteor Apocalypse, but I guess for this one at least, the highlights are definitely something you'd want to check out.
Fair enough.
But overall, to sit down and watch it, and if, you got kids, I probably wouldn't say to watch it. On a bad movie night, though, I think it would be an alright pick.
Alright, well, I'm not recommending this as well. I do not think it would work on a good bad movie night either, because here's the thing. It's incomprehensible in ways that aren't fun. And I think one of the ways that it is incomprehensible, and we touched on it, we joked on it, but one of the things that really makes it hard to follow this film is not the lack of structure necessarily, or even the plot. It's the audio. I could not understand what many people were saying. In previous episodes, Bartek has had that complaint on some regards, or when we've had to turn the volume all the way up, or complaining that we don't have subtitles. I usually don't have that problem as much because I don't know, I feel like my hearing's better in that regard with some of these things, maybe. But this time around, this is a deliberate, this is an audio problem where the ADR is bad, but not in a funny way. It is in that way where you are having a conversation in which you're hearing, yes, and you're like, what? I'm sorry. And it's not just because of the bad mics either. It's because actors, child actors, and adult actors, this is the thing, adult actors too, didn't know how to enunciate their words and actually tell us things in a way that's clear. That's why when you have A-grade actors, or B-grade if you really want to go there, but for me they're A-grades, Judge Reinhold and John Aston, people who have worked in this industry for a very long time, who know the biz, who know how to act. That's why we could understand their dialogue. I don't even think it's not just because they had better microphones, because honestly, Judge Reinhold's microphone wasn't that great either. But I could understand them because they knew how to speak. Well, with these kids, they didn't have direction on that. They just spoke how like kids do, mumbly and fast. Or downwards, or something, or, that kind of stuff. This was not fun watching it because I couldn't understand what was going on in their dialogue, so I was often lost. I had to go in the visual elements alone, which were fucking atrocious, but funny at the same time. But there's too many things that just left me too stumped. I just couldn't grasp it. Like, Stardust left me confused as well, as did Finding Emo, as did many of these other movies, but I could kind of tell you the basics of them at least, or get an understanding of what they were trying to do. Even Stardust, which in that episode I'm pretty sure I'm like, I don't know what they was trying to do, but on a level I understood that it was trying to be a family movie. This, I don't know who this is for. Honestly, this is one where I just go, it's incomprehensible even for children. It's too adult for children, but then it's also too kidsy for teens or adults. It's too sexual for anyone. It's incomprehensible. It's a no from me. What about you, Jules?
Oh, it's a solid no. The only time I would ever recommend this is if you fully went in intending to play a drinking game out of it, and you would probably understand it more being drunk than you would being sober. And I have the exact same issues. I have the fact that, who, what, where, why? Who the fuck is this for? Because I don't understand as well. It's definitely got way too much sexual tension for it to be addressed to kids. It's also way too complicated in the fact that I'm 24 and, we all went to Deakin, we all studied acting and film to a certain degree.
Yeah.
If me, who actually has a degree in that, can't understand what the fuck is going on, then I don't understand how someone at all can understand it.
Yeah.
It again is way too childish for an adult. It's just unpleasing to the eye. Not only, can people not enunciate, but between the horrible audio being so out of balance, not only just it cutting out, but the background being obnoxiously loud at some points, and hearing random sounds like, I don't know, birds or something that would just happen randomly.
Oh, when they were in the water, the splashing around, or even on the boat.
Or when there's that bit where there's just this alarm noise going off when on the speedway, and we never found out what that was coming from.
Yeah, just random knocks, random things where it sounds like on set, the mic might have been pointed more towards the actual, ambience or whatever, and you hear that more than the sound. It's literally everything. It's to the point where, there are some things that you can really have a good laugh about. The highlights to me are not strong enough or funny enough to kind of carry the rest of whatever the heck Betaville is.
Yeah, and thing too with the audio is it's that thing where it's not bad enough either. Like, it's just a good enough quality where it's not like Birdemic, where that's a fucking nightmare audio-wise. this is competent enough, but so incompetent as well. Like all things Jules mentioned, but it's not like Birdemic where you have that real jarring kind of cut. And like they knew how to do audio, but they just decided to not do it.
But the worst part is when the audio is bad, you can make out a word or two here and there. I would actually prefer it if I couldn't make out the whole sentence.
Yeah.
Compared to going, oh, well, I heard that one word, so now I have to contextualize, what the actual sentence is.
And then you're scene behind because you're trying to figure out that other scene.
Yeah, at least with Birdemic, they're so stiff and awkward that when they actually do have a sentence to say, that's like the whole shot, and you can actually...
That's true.
Because that's the main thing you focus on. Like, this is the sentence of the shot.
This is no Birdemic. So we are going to be finishing the episode, of course, but we have to do something before then.
We have to do the Mystery Box typical finisher.
Yeah, which is we are stuck in this room because unfortunately the audio editor from Betaville has decided that we are not allowed to leave because we badmouthed his work.
So the antagonist...
And he can't hear us.
Oh.
What are you saying wrong? I really couldn't.
Oh, yeah, so he can't hear us right now because he's blocking his ear.
And what do we do about that?
Well, what we do about that is we're going to come up with a method in which we find a character from the movie, and then we choose the character from the movie together, and they help us defeat the audio editor and his amazing ability to make crap audio. So guys, you have to kind of figure out what character you want from the movie now. Bartek, have you got a character in mind?
I think it's my favourite part of the episode. Character in mind.
There are so many characters.
Sorry, I'm done laughing. Now I have just started thinking. I know
exactly what character.
Oh, I can't wait to hear you. Bartek's got that thinking music on.
I kind of want to say... I kind of... No, guys, quieter. Now we can't hear the effect of the quietness. I want to say John Aston, but I don't know if he did enough in the film to justify...
Yeah, it is that thing where it's the actor, right? We all love him from Gomez.
No, but his character in the film, too, was kind of fun.
Yeah.
You know what? Judge Reinhold. He's got some technical know-how. He might have a gadget that can help us.
I knew you'd go there. And honestly, I don't know either. Jules, I want to hear from you first. Who are you picking?
The person who had the most screen time on this film purely because they went, we have this, we must utilize it.
The tank.
The fucking tank.
Oh.
The tank's a good choice.
You know what?
The tank or the people that drove it at the end?
No, the tank itself, it was a character.
And it's just the tank, preferably loaded with one. Not two shells, just
That's
one.
actually pretty good. I was leaning towards Judge Reinhold because he's the only character that really stuck out. Because I love John Aston as an actor, but it's only because he's the actor, not the character for me. The character wasn't anything on the page that was brought off of it because it's just like me going, hey, that's John Aston, I like him. Nothing else. At least with the previous episode, Stardust, the guy who played the science teacher, who is Giancarlo Esposito, I could tell he was doing more than just me liking that actor, right? But no, not John Aston. Judge Reinhold was probably what I would lean towards, but we've got to go with the tank. We've got to go with the tank. So Bartek, the audio editor guy, has now grabbed out his audio editing board, and he's threatening to cut off your microphone if you don't stop him. We're not going to be able to hear you. So what are you going to do?
Well, Ryan, my tactic is going to be... So, hold on, what's he doing again?
He's got his audio editing board, and if you don't do something real quick, he's going to just cut off your microphone. He's just going to remove you from the audio. If you don't do something to weaken him, your mic's going to be cut out for the rest of the episode. We're not going to be able to hear you.
So you're not going to be able to hear me, but I am going to be able to deal with him.
If you try real fast, you got a few seconds, buddy.
All right, look, I'm going to set something up, and I tell you, in about a few minutes, I am going to absolutely mess him...
Oh, no.
We've lost Bartek.
Oh, no.
He's gone. But it's okay, because I'm going to go. He's still threatening my microphone, but the thing is, what he doesn't know is I'm the one who edits these episodes myself. I'm the audio editor of Spit and Polish, and I'm walking up to his audio desk right now. I'm looking him dead in the eyes. Hi, audio editing man. And you know what my move is? My attack move, is teaching him how to make audio edits better. So I'm sitting down with him, I'm showing him what buttons to press, I'm teaching him what programs to use, while the tank and Jules is going, I'm teaching him how to use the microphone, and hey, you know what's happening? I'm trying to figure out how to turn Bartek's microphone on, but it's a bit more effort, so we've got to wait for a while. So, Jules, what do you think you're going to do?
If I talk loud enough, maybe I'll be picked up in your microphone.
Oh, good idea, Bartek.
Can you hear me?
I think I can hear you a bit.
Okay.
So, I'm coming in with the tank.
It's a joint effort.
This is no nonsense. I'm just gonna let the tank fire, and the way I'm gonna end it is I'm going to open this flaming door, open it, find this god-awful audio engineer, and I'm gonna elbow him in the face.
I knew it.
Great.
And I think that's Jules and the tank combined doing a joint effort there.
Well, no, the tank then uses 2 missiles.
Oh, yeah, and the tank loads up itself with 2 missiles, and I'm there going, no, tank, no, I'm still at the desk. And it fires, but it explodes. But the shrapnel decapitates the audio engineer, and I turn on Bartek's microphone again.
Whoop! Is it on? Oh, yep, I'm on again.
Bartek, thank you so much for surviving the ordeal of not having a microphone available to you.
Welcome back, we missed you, buddy.
Well, you didn't hear what I said, but I said that I'd stab him with a pirate sword, and he actually died pretty much just before you went up to the board, Ryan.
Wow, so I was talking to a dead guy.
Yeah.
It explains
You're teaching
why
a dead guy.
It was so weird that...
Wait, did I elbow a dead guy?
Yeah, Jules is a necrophiliac.
Sexual elbowing?
Sexual tension, because they had a weird cat fight in sexy underwear.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention
but
that
it's
I was
weird
in
because
pajamas.
when I was teaching the dead guy, his audio editing got better. It's really weird that a dead person could do better audio editing and design than a living man.
Kirby, come look!
YB49, we meet at last.
Jules, as always, it was such a pleasure. This is your first time on the Mystery Box, and hopefully not the last. It was great to have you on talking about the majesty of the film that you picked, by the way.
I'm just gonna hope to God that I don't pick the same DVD twice.
Oh, brother.
You don't want to do... what was it? Family Vacation?
Bored Silly.
Bored Silly.
I can't do more sequels and talk films and things off the same DVD.
That's true.
It's not a sequel.
So, Bartek, a pleasure as always as well. I think we did pretty decent trying to break this down. It was difficult, but not as not as mind-bendingly hard as Stardust, I don't think. It felt like a challenge, but I think we conquered that Mount Everest. As always, you guys at home have been fantastic, amazing, wonderful listening people. If you want to find us, we're on the social medias, Facebook, the Twitter. We are on all the platforming sites, Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, all of that. You can drop us a rating and a review on iTunes. That's always very helpful. We've got an email.
Yeah.
What's the email?
spitandpolished@gmail.com.
So if you want to suggest movies for us to do on another show and Appreciate Masterpieces, or if you're perhaps the filmmaker of this, please email us at that. Or if you just want to say hi or give us a death threat or something, I don't know, email us at that.
Yeah, we have nothing against you. We'd be more than happy to hear what you have to say about it, in fact.
Yeah, exactly. Well, until next time, guys, you should all remember to be kind to each other.
Yeah, and also, Ryan, you said before that, it was a pleasure as always to do it with me. I want to say that it was a pleasure to do it with you too, in fact.
So, you see? I'm the fool I used to call fool.